Hello everyone. In the last class, we learned how to find the deformation of a straight bar followed by the deformation of a stepped bar and the deformation of a tapered bar which is having circular as well as rectangular cross section. In this session, we shall try to learn the concepts related to elastic constants and how we can relate the various elastic constants, and then we are going to learn one more new topic which is a composite sections followed by the temperature stresses. So first let us see what is the definition of an elastic constant. So elastic constants, they are nothing but they are the factors which are used to determine the deformation which is produced due to the application of a particular type of stress on a body within the elastic limit. In our syllabus, we are having 4 different elastic constants. They are: first one, modulus of elasticity; second one, it is modulus of rigidity; and the next one is bulk modulus; and the last one is the Poisson's ratio. So first let us see what is the definition of, or what is modulus of elasticity. So the modulus of elasticity will come into picture when a material is subjected to a normal stress. So when a material is subjected to normal stress, it results in the change in length of a member. So the change in length, it may be either increase in length or it may be decrease in length, and it depends upon what is the type of normal stress we are going to apply on a body. So whenever there is a change in dimensions due to the normal stress, the type of strain induced in a body, we are going to call it as a normal strain, and the ratio of this normal stress to the corresponding normal strain within the elastic limit, we are going to call it as a modulus of elasticity, and it is denoted by the term capital E. Next, we shall see what is modulus of rigidity. So modulus of rigidity will come into picture when a given material is subjected to a shear stress. As we discussed in the earlier classes, that when a member is subjected to a shear stress, it will result in the angular deformation of a body. So whenever there is an angular deformation, it results in the shear strain. So the ratio of this shear stress with the shear strain within the elastic limit, we are going to call it as modulus of rigidity, and it is denoted by the term G. Similarly, now we shall learn what is a definition of a bulk modulus. So the bulk modulus will come into picture when a given member will be subjected to same stress in mutually perpendicular directions. Suppose if I take a diagram here, it is consisting of a cube where we are having the stress sigma along x direction, and we are having the same amount of stress sigma in y direction, and we are having the same amount of stress sigma in z direction. That is, the stress applied along x, y and z are of same magnitude. So when you apply the stresses of same magnitude on the 3 sides, it results in the change in dimension in all the 3 directions, which results in the change in volume of a given member. So the ratio of this volumetric stress to the strain which is induced due to the change in volume, that is the volumetric strain, we are going to call it as a bulk modulus, and it is denoted by the term K. Now let us discuss the last elastic constant, which is Poisson's ratio, which is denoted by the term mu. When a body is subjected to a tensile load, we know that the length of the member is going to increase, whereas the dimension in other 2 directions, that is the dimension along y and the dimension along z, they are going to decrease. So the stress which will be induced, the strain which will be induced in the direction of the load, they are called as normal stress, and the strain which are induced in the direction of the applied load, it is called as a normal strain, and the strain which are induced in the direction perpendicular to the applied load, they are called as a lateral strain. So the ratio of this lateral strain to the longitudinal strain, it is called by the term Poisson's ratio, and it is denoted by the term mu. So the Poisson's ratio, it denotes the ratio of the lateral strain to the longitudinal strain. After learning the definition of elastic constant followed by different types of elastic constant, now we shall try to relate the various elastic constants, that is E, G and K. So E represents Young's modulus E, G represents modulus of rigidity and K represents bulk modulus. We know that the Young's modulus and modulus of rigidity, it can be related by the equation E equals 2G into 1 plus mu. Similarly, the Young's modulus E, it can be related with bulk modulus K with the relation E equals 3K into 1 minus 2 mu. I am going to call this equation as 1 and I am going to call this equation as 2. And if you see equation 1 and 2, in equation 1 we will be having E and G, and in equation 2 we are having E and K. Suppose if I want all the three terms E, G and K in a single formula, then we need to do certain mathematical manipulation to equation 1 and 2. So in equation 1, by making use of equation 1, I can write the expression for mu. So if I write the expression for mu using equation 1, I will get expression like this, that is mu will be equals to E minus 2G divided by 2G, and I am going to call this as equation 3. Now what I am going to do is, I am going to substitute the value of mu in the equation 2. So the mathematical manipulation, the second mathematical manipulation I am doing is, I am going to substitute the equation 3 which consisting of the value mu in equation 2. So when I substitute the value of mu in equation 2, I will get equation like this, E will be equals to 3K into 1 minus 2 into, in place of mu I am going to write E minus 2G divided by 2G. So if I simplify this equation after doing mathematical manipulation, I will get an expression E will be equals to 9kg divided by 3k plus g, which relates the elastic constants E, K and G. After learning about the definition of elastic constants followed by types of elastic constant and how we can relate the various elastic constants, now let us try to see the new topic, which is the composite sections or a composite bar. So far, while we have considered the bars which are made up of single material, if the bars which are used to carry load, if they are made up of more than one material, then we are going to call it as a composite bar. An example for composite bar is this one, where in order to carry the load P, we are making use of two rods. One is made up of copper and it is covered with another hollow cylinder which is made up of steel. So these two materials in together, they are used in order to carry the load P. Similarly, in figure B, here it is also representing a composite bar. Here, in order to carry the load W, we are making use of three rods which are made up of different material. So the first rod, it is made up of steel, the second rod, it is made up of copper, and the last rod, it is made up of aluminum, and these three rods, they are together is used to support the load W. So since in order to carry the given load, we are making use of bars made up of various materials, they are called as a composite bars. Now let us see, if I want to call a given member as a composite bar, what are the conditions they are need to be satisfied. So first condition that needs to be satisfied is, whatever the total load that will be acting on a given composite bar, it should be taken up by the members. Suppose if I take the total load acting on a composite bar as P, then this load P, it should be shared by the bar which is made up of copper and also by the bar which is made up of steel. So here the total load P, it will be equal to P1 plus P2 for figure A. Similarly, if we consider figure B, to the load W, it will be taken by three different rods. So first rod, the amount of load taken by the first rod, we are going to denote as P1, the total amount of load taken by the second rod, we are going to denote it as P2, and the load taken by the rod 3 we are going to denote as P3. So when you add all the loads that are taken by these 3 rods, it should be equal to the total load that is applied on the body. So if these two terms are equal, then only the member will be under equilibrium. Similarly, the second condition that needs to be satisfied by the composite bar is, when the load is acting on the bar, they should undergo same amount of deformation. Here, when you apply a load W, suppose if the steel bar, if it gets deformed by an amount delta L, then the copper should also get deformed by an amount equals to delta L, and the aluminium should also deform by an amount equal to delta L. Suppose if the deformation is not same, then the load will not be shared by all the 3 members. So if the load needs to be shared by all the 3 members, then all the 3 members under the action of the given load, they should compress by same amount or they should elongate by same amount. So these are the various conditions that a composite bar needs to satisfy. After learning the definition of elastic constants, types of elastic constants, relation between the elastic constants and the composite bars, now we shall learn about the concept which is called as a temperature stress. We know that when the body is subjected to change in temperature, it may expand or it may contract. Suppose if you restrict this deformation, then some amount of stress is going to induce in a body, and such stress are called as a thermal stress. There are 3 cases in case of a thermal stress. So first case is when a body is subjected to change in temperature and the expansion or the contraction that is going to happen, if you are allowing to happen fully, that is free expansion or contraction. So in order to understand this, we have taken a cantilever beam and we are going to change its temperature by an amount delta T. So when you change its temperature by an amount delta T, because of this change in temperature, it is going to expand by certain amount, and it can be calculated by making use of the equation L alpha delta T, where delta T represents change in temperature, alpha represents the coefficient of thermal expansion of a given material, and L represents the initial length of the member. So for this condition, now let us try to see what is the amount of stress that is going to induce and what is the amount of strain that is going to induce. We know that the definition of stress, it represents the internal resistance force acting per unit area. So if there is a resistance in a body, then only there will be stress. If there is no resistance, then there will be no stress induced in the member. So in case of free expansion, when the member is expanding, we are not giving any resistance to that expansion. As a result, the amount of stress induced will be 0. And we can calculate the strain by making use of the equation delta L by L, where delta L represents change in length of a member and L represents initial length of a member. We know that delta L due to change in temperature will be L alpha delta T, and initial length of the member is L. So LL will cancel out and will be left with alpha into delta T, which represents the strain which is induced in a member when a member is allowed to expand or contract freely. Now let us try to see the second case in case of the thermal stress. That is, when you increase the temperature, when you change the temperature, the material is going to expand or contract. Now let us see that we are going to restrict this expansion or contraction completely. We can understand this condition by making use of this diagram. Here we have taken a bar or a structure and we are going to fix the member at both the ends. We are going to fix the member at both the ends. Let us say the initial length of the member is L. For this member, now let us going to change its temperature by an amount equal to delta T. So when I increase the temperature of this member by an delta T, it is going to expand. So we are going to restrict this expansion by providing a fixed support at this end. So when I provide this fixed support, whole expansion will be resisted by this fixed support by developing a force P. Now we can find what will be the amount of stress and strain that will be going to induce in member when we are going to restrict the expansion or contraction completely by seeing this diagram. So here we know that since the expansion is completely restricted, there will be no expansion of the member. So since there is no expansion, the strain induced in the member is 0. Now in order to find what is the amount of stress that is induced in a member, we shall consider the condition that whatever the free expansion that is taking place, that free expansion is prevented by this support by developing a force P. So the free expansion, if we don't have this support, then the amount of expansion that was happening was L alpha delta T. Because of this support, this whole expansion is prevented by developing a force P. So if we are having a force P, the amount of expansion prevented, it can be calculated by using the equation PL divided by AE. Now we can replace P by A by the term sigma, and if you simplify this equation, we will get the expression for stress as E alpha delta T. So for case 2, the amount of strain induced in a member will be 0 and the amount of stress induced in a member will be equals to E alpha delta T, where E represents the Young's modulus of the material from which this member is made and alpha represents the coefficient of thermal expansion of this material. Now we shall see that we have taken a member and we are restricting only the expansion or contraction partially. That is, here we have taken a member and we are going to increase the temperature of a member by an amount delta T. So if I don't have this support, let us say it is going to expand by an amount equals to delta L, which can be calculated by using the equation L alpha delta T. Since I need to prevent this expansion partially, I am going to provide a support at a distance of delta. So when I provide the support at a distance of delta, then only this much of expansion, free expansion is prevented and the member is allowed to expand by an amount equal to delta. So since there is an expansion, some amount of expansion, there will be a strain, and because of some resistance for the expansion, there will be a stress. So we can calculate the amount of stress by making use of the same equation. So the amount of expansion prevented, it will be equal to total expansion minus delta. So the free expansion, as we know, it can be calculated by using the equation L alpha delta T then minus delta equals expansion prevented, it can be calculated by using the equation PL divided by AE. So this P by A, we can, if you replace it by sigma, and if you do the simplification, then you will get the expression for sigma as E by L in bracket L alpha delta T minus delta.